You are Locked On Wolverines, your daily podcast on the Michigan Wolverines, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Happy Wednesday. I am decked head to toe in Michigan gear to celebrate a rivalry win that happened in, I wouldn't say dramatic fashion, but emphatic fashion on Tuesday night. Locked On Wolverines podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every day. I'm your man on the ground. I say a whole publisher of Wolverines Wire. We are going to discuss Michigan's win over Michigan State. Big win for Phil Martelli. I do want to pause before we even get to that to tell you that I ran into Mr. Juwan Howard this afternoon and asked him how he's doing. Said, like, I know this is probably hard for you. He's like, I'm still grinding. He's like, I'm still grinding. So Juwan is certainly in high spirits despite being away from the team. But Michigan took on Michigan State after getting absolutely rolled in East Lansing thanks to a not great second half. Michigan turned the tables in pretty much every way. It was like an inverse of the first game. It's kind of incredible how that went down in the sense of, in the first game, Michigan kept things close. In the first half, it didn't kind of look like they had any business doing so. And then couldn't score, couldn't get stops, long scoring droughts in the second. And bring it back to Ann Arbor. It's Michigan at home doing what Michigan State did in the second half, while Michigan State essentially had 9+ minutes of not scoring with, like, I think it was one basket, maybe two baskets that interrupted that. But it was a 5-minute drought, a couple baskets, and then a 4-minute drought, while Michigan was hitting everything. 58% of the shots went down, including 58% of the threes. Sharpshooters, Caleb Houston, Terrence Williams II, incredible. Great defense, great ball, both ball security as well as just management. A lot, 3 assists, I believe it was, for Frankie Collins. Just got the job done. And excellent transition defense. It looked very horrid to start. And it didn't help matters that being in Chrysler, it felt like a pretty, not split crowd, but pretty close. The Michigan State fans were there en masse. It's the loudest out of all the Michigan State basketball games I've been to at Chrysler. I think this was like my 5th or 6th or something like that, maybe higher. Probably higher. I just can't remember. I'm sure I've been to every Michigan State home game in the last, aside from last year where I didn't go to any basketball games, every one of them since the 2015 season, I'm sure. But, I mean, it was, and I've been to 2 and maybe 3 in East Lansing. I think I've been to 3 in East Lansing, maybe 4. Nonetheless, I don't know why that matters. But it was a loud Spartans crowd, and when Michigan State was being announced, the go green, go white, it felt almost like being in the Breslin. It was. I texted a colleague of mine and said, "This is embarrassing," but he had a point. He said, just more of them to be sad if Michigan wins. Now, I thought Michigan had a chance to win. I wasn't really sure what to expect, but I thought if Michigan was going to win, it was going to be one of those close games. But at the same time, Michigan and Michigan State, it tends to be that the home team has tended to play really well at home. Not always, but for the most part. Think back to a couple years ago when MSU got run off. I mean, it was the same kind of thing. This game by 17. In ways, it wasn't even that close. Certainly, Michigan could have blown things open, but Michigan State's defense started to get some stops there in the middle of the second. It was pretty incredible, though, what Michigan was able to do with how much scoring and the transition defense, because Michigan State, they were like, we're just going to run on you. There's nothing you're going to be able to do about it, and that worked for all of a couple minutes. Remember, they were 3 of 5. Michigan was 5 of 5, and the game was pretty close. But Michigan did everything right. They out-rebounded. They had even a number, I believe, in turnovers. Or I think Michigan had 2 more turnovers, but they were even before the subs came in. And So they had more assists, of course. Obviously much better at shooting from 3-point range. Obviously shooting much better in general. I mean, it was everything you wanted. Out hustled Michigan State. And it's absolutely glorious, especially when you start hearing, and I didn't hear this, I saw it on Twitter, but like Mike Valeni saying that if Juwan coaches that game, Michigan loses. Okay. You know, Phil Martelli is still on staff, right? Like, if you think that Phil Martelli makes that much of a difference, you think that Phil Martelli is like, well, I think what we need to do is this, and Juwan's like, I keep it real. That's not how it goes. That's not how it works. It's a clown comment, bro. But it's hilarious watching them try to make sense of things. That's one of the fun things about Michigan State. And I feel like, and yes, some Michigan fans do this, but I think one of the fun things about Michigan State and Ohio State is, to some degree, there's never any admission of fault. And, or if there is, it's fire everybody. Like I just so you didn't have to, I took a trip to RCMB this morning and read all it's time for Tom Izzo to go. Like, really? You want to get rid of your Hall of Fame coach? That's what you want to do, huh? Because you won pretty emphatically last time, and and going into this game, you're sitting there saying January, February, Izzo, April. Well, what happened? This first game in March, we didn't win. Listen, I actually don't have anything against Tom Izzo. I don't. But and a lot of the Michigan coaches, it sounds like they don't either. Like Phil Martelli, he's called him a Hall of Fame person. But obviously, the school he represents, it's going to rub you the wrong way, and it's just hilarious, the justifications. Let's dig deeper. Let's get into Hunter Dickinson. I mean, my God. I say that kind of with the Thomas Jefferson and Hamilton. My God. But before we do, I got to tell you a little something about Built Bar. Y'all know how much I love Built Bar. I'm anxiously awaiting my box of the white chocolate cookies and cream that I ordered. I cannot wait. I need them so much. But if you don't know what Built Bar is, it's a protein bar that tastes like a candy bar. High protein, low calorie, low carb. It's literally everything I need to hit my macros, my diet. I can have 2 at a time, and it's still less calories, more protein than getting a Metrics Big 100, which had been my go-to. But I put my money where my mouth is. I've spent a lot of money over the course of time to buy dozens of boxes of Built Bar because it is that good that whereas I could sit here and hawk it and say like, well, they tell me about it and they send me product every now and again. Listen, I bought this last box with my own money. I've bought at least 30 at this point boxes over the course of the last year and a half. So join me in my crusade for Built Bar. You won't regret it. Go to built.com, use the promo code LOCKED15, spend a little bit less money. Built.com, promo code LOCKED15 to get 15% off of your next order of Built Bar. All right, so I got to tell you where I got it. If you want to know, if you're watching on the YouTube and you want to know where I got this hat it's a Michigan versus everybody kind of a snapback, but not really. It's got a buckle in the back, but by Valiant, that will be available at Emden, I'm sure, at any point. Last I checked a couple days ago, it was not yet. You can get the hoodie that I am wearing from Home Field. I am wearing the matching joggers, but I think those are long sold out. But keep an eye out because I'm sure they'll put those up again at some point, But I almost put on the shoes. I have the Michigan Jordans that Jordan Brand sent me when they made the switch. It was great. A little bit damaged thanks to a motorcycle accident I was in. But why I wore shoes like that when I was riding my motorcycle is beyond me. But I also ruined a pair of Adidas because the paint melted off. Anyway, so let's talk about Hunter Dickinson. I think we can all very safely say he's a villain, but he's our villain, Phil Martelli said it said it best. He said yesterday in the post game that Hunter, if it doesn't work out in basketball, he will be WWE, but he would be a villain. Not a good guy. He would absolutely be a villain. He would make WWE a ton of money. And that type of thing was happening again yesterday, of course. But he's our villain, and I think that we don't have that enough in Ann Arbor. To some degree, we always see it's like such good kids, just always such good kids. Need guys like him with an edge. Not just talent, with an edge. I mean, having a little bit of that, and it seems like we get them in basketball here and there. We had Iggy Brazdakis, you had Mo Wagner. Certainly those were types of players that got under the skin of the competition. I think it's great in basketball. Fab Five obviously was that as well. But I love it. I love someone who can get under someone's skin without going overboard. Now, Hunter probably went a little overboard yesterday. Basically, as he scored his career high 33 points, it seemed like every time he was scoring or dunking or something like that, he was looking back at the MSU bench. And it got so bad that the refs had to go and have a little talk with Phil Martelli and said, hey, just tell him to cut this out, no more. And Phil Martelli says, hey, let it be about your play. But listen, I don't have anything wrong with. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't have any problem with it if you keep it at about that max level. But it's one of those things that if you're on the other side, yeah, you hate it, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think that's fine, right? But how many times have we seen those types of guys come through, or even with other teams in the Big Ten, like he didn't really do this in the game on Sunday, but like Kofi Coburn, I feel like, has said things and done things that make you not like him if you're in Ann Arbor. You know what I mean? There's always going to be guys like that. Back when I was a hardcore fan, funny, doesn't really look like things have changed here today. But I remember thinking about Denzel Valentine. Someone can refresh my memory. There was something that happened in like 2013 or 2012, or maybe it was 2014, when Denzel Valentine was a Spartan. Something that happened at Chrysler. I don't remember with it. Like, I remember seeing a picture on like MGO blog, with them like hopping up and down or something like that, and just being like, oh, those, thinking of Bob Ufer with that, like they will meet their dastardly fate, type thing. But I think rivalries kind of need a little bit of something like that, and Hunter certainly injects a lot of it. I mean, just an absolute stellar performance. I believe he was 12 for 19 yesterday for 33 points, hit 10 free throws. I mean, it's everything that you needed. He just dominated. And I think the thing that made it so cool was what Phil Martelli had said about a lot of it was the angles. Like he recognized that they weren't saying, hey, you need to get closer to the basket, because that's one of the things that Tom Izzo said in the post game is, last time we didn't let him get that close to the basket. This time Hunter figured out. They didn't say, hey, Hunter, you need to do this. He just kind of recognized, like, this is the type of game where I need to get closer to the basket. And he did, with impunity. And it was phenomenal to watch. I mean, it was a stellar performance, and it just so much greatness. And you hope he sticks around for a little bit longer. Can't imagine he will, but you hope he does. Also got to shout out Caleb Houston, who hit the 2 threes, had that driving basket that when Michigan, I think they were only up 12, and then he drives to the basket and pushes it forward. Michigan never let it get closer than that. Maybe I think it got down to 10, but I don't think so. I think 12 was the closest. But he started feeling a little danger zone-y there for a minute. And he's starting to not just make shots, but make big shots. But he was one of the ones that he was hitting those threes when Michigan State wasn't able to do much of anything. And that's what really decided the game, right? Was that run that they went on when Michigan State just couldn't score in that 5-minute drought in the first half. Caleb Houston was a big part of that. And, I mean, Eli Brooks and then eventually Terrence Williams. It seemed like everyone kind of got involved. Devontae Jones in the second half, obviously, he sat for a very long time because of the 2 fouls in the first 4 minutes. But Devontae Jones continues to look stellar. This is a team that could be poised to make a run if given the opportunity. Now, there's obviously 2 big games left. We are going to get to those here momentarily. But it's going to be really interesting to see what happens going forward, because this it's starting to maybe feel, and I understand it was a loss against Illinois, but it was kind of a good loss, right? It kind of feels like if Michigan can play the way it did last night, which is hard to do, they're not going to do that all the time. But somewhere between Illinois and Michigan State, if they play somewhere there in between, they're going to be hard to beat. So let's move on to talk about that here momentarily. But before we do, listen, March Madness is only weeks away. That means you need to start thinking about where you're going to be running your brackets this year. Are you going for the usual, or are you looking for the best? Well, we've done the homework here, and we are running brackets with runyourpool.com. Along with standard brackets, Run Your Pool offers game types like Survivor or Pick X. Both are really fun in their own way. They have options to edit scoring, and they offer more intel to make your picks, all stuff you won't find at ESPN or CBS. If you've got a business, Run Your Pool can help you take some of that madness magic and play alongside your employees or even gain customers. Plus, they offer full white glove customer support, custom branding, and one of the easiest 3-minute setups you'll ever find. Clearly, we believe Run Your Pool in Run Your Pool because, like I said, we're running our brackets there ourselves. No truer test than that. We are going to have our own Locked On Wolverines. Wow, almost went with the Wolverines way, but we're going to have our own Locked On Wolverines one up here probably next week. So, but if you want to play against us for a shot at a cash prize, join us at runyourpool.com/lockedon. That's the broader Locked On one. Well, while you're there, create your own pool for your friends and family. Enter Pure Madness at checkout for $10 off your custom pool. All the rules and details will be available there. That's runyourpool.com/lockedon for your chance to win a cash prize. We look forward to seeing and beating you there. All right, let's continue for a moment, though. I got to tell you a little something about rockauto.com. With the ever-increasing numbers of makes and models, it's now impossible for your local chain auto parts store to stock all the parts you need. Why endure often pointless or seemingly intimidating questioning and wait while the person behind the counter orders the parts on their computer, choosing only the brand their warehouse happens to carry? You have computers with access to rockauto.com at home and in your pocket. Save time and money when using Rock Auto. Why choose to spend 30, 50, or even 100% more for the same parts from a chain store or a car dealership? Rock Auto is a family business serving do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years. I am a person who has spent a lot of money there as well over the course of the years, and they've saved me a lot more money than what I've spent probably. Rock Auto prices are reliably low for every customer. They have everything you need: brake parts, tail lamps, motor oil, even new carpet. So go explore their easy-to-use website today to find the solution to your auto parts needs. Go to rockauto.com right now. See all the parts available for your car or truck. Right, logged on in their How Did You Hear About Us box so they know that we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. rockauto.com. All right, so how sweet is it, though, just the day after beating a rival? Because, as y'all know, if any of you who follow along, have been following along, maybe this is your first time watching, second time watching, this is your second show, and you watched the one that I had on Monday about Ohio State, you'd think I'm just the biggest homer in the world. But I've been pretty open in that as I'm clad head to toe in Michigan gear. Very comfortable though. I've been kind of killed my Michigan fandom a couple years after starting covering the team. It took a couple of years. It took until the spot against Ohio State in 2016, and that was like kind of the recognition of I can't do my job and be fan anymore. Can't do it. Obviously, I want Michigan to win. It makes life more fun, makes life easier. But when they lose, no sweat off my back, except for with rivals. In rivalry games, it's like don't hear the end of it. And for me, it's a distraction, and people get personal. We talked about that on the Ohio State show. So for the sake of the people who follow those teams, not like the ones that kind of act the way that I did when I was a fan. I mean, yeah, it ruined my weekend. I drank myself to sleep. Watching Michigan lose to Ohio State before. It's happened a couple times. But, I never begrudged my friends who were fans of other teams are my family. You know, I've got Michigan State family. I've got Ohio State family. But it's one of those things where, you know, lose once once you're out of the immediate aftermath, you know, and everything. To me, it was always like, oh, man, well, hopefully we get them again next time. You know what I mean? And, you know, I've never been a trash talker ever. Been a little bit on the YouTube boards here the last couple days until I finally thought better of it and muted the notifications so I couldn't see everything that Buckeyes were saying. But for the sake of how obnoxious Michigan State and Ohio State fans are, it is wonderful when Michigan beats them. Wonderful. But, you know, of course, they all have excuses. They do this thing that they claim Michigan does. But they can't do, like, I think I've said this before. When Michigan, for instance, won against Notre Dame in 2011, I was full fan, hardcore, watching in LA, going nuts. We went and partied afterwards, sang karaoke and all this stuff. It was like a great night. The thing about that game, I would have told you then, I'll tell you again now. Michigan wasn't the better team in that game. If you look at like overall who deserves to win that game or whatever, like chances are, like if they played that game 10 times that year, Michigan, at least in that period of the season, probably only wins once or twice. Everything had to go right. They were getting outplayed. Guess who can never say that? Michigan State or Ohio State fans. They just can't. It's like they hate Michigan so much. So it is so wonderful, not only when Michigan wins, but they win convincingly. Now, of course, with the Ohio State and the football rivalry, you know, they have all their excuses. The weather, because Columbus is tropical compared to Ann Arbor. They've never seen snow before. The flu. I understand. Sickness happens. I remember games in which Michigan players, you know, I know one game in particular where Shea Patterson had the flu. They still won the game. He still played okay, maybe not up to his full potential, but he still played pretty good. It happens, right? It's part of life. It's part of the game. But it makes it that much more wonderful, which means Michigan needs to complete it. They've already got a home loss to Ohio State. They're playing Ohio State again on Sunday in Columbus. That's going to be hard. They need it in the worst way. You win that one, you're for sure in the NCAA tournament. I think probably right now they're in based off of what just happened last night, but maybe a little bit more work to be done. But beat Ohio State. That'll change things. But and obviously beating Iowa, whose I think last loss was to Michigan, as it was a couple weeks ago. So I unfortunately will not be at the Iowa game. I'll be at a concert seeing Tool. But nonetheless, Michigan needs to get those things done. And you got 2 regular season games left. Thursday, I mean, they're going to be tired. Got a little bit more, an extra day before they play Ohio State. But it's all right there for them. Make all the rivals hate themselves and come up with excuses. Use those excuses like candy and eat them up, because sometimes you don't have a choice. All right, that's going to do it for us today. Tomorrow, mailbag. Obviously, I'm going to the concert, so we're going to probably record around 4 or 5. So get your questions in now. It's already up on Twitter. So hit me up if you have a question that you want answered for the mailbag. Anyway, for today, thank you for watching and or listening. We will talk to you again soon. Peace.